I just laid out a laundry list of potential catalysts and factors at play. Can you tell us why the markets are not reacting more forcefully to everything going on domestically and abroad?
It's really quite a moment when you look at the constellation of geopolitical risks. But one thing that I can say with the perspective of covering geopolitics and markets for 25 years is that the perceived importance of Middle East conflict and its relationship to the oil price has declined over time. But I think in this case, the market is really failing to appreciate the potential gravity of the moment.
If they are failing to kind of understand the gravity of the moment, can you blame them a little bit if they've seen this kind of a situation develop over the course of the last almost decade and a half now, always centered around the Middle East? And it's always been the situation where after a few weeks of heightened political risk and geopolitical uncertainty, things just kind of fizzle out and get back on track again.
Yes, and that's a luxury that the commodities markets in particular have been able to afford. And remember, what really changed in this equation was the onset of U.S. shale gas supply. So that really did a lot to reduce the kind of catalyst to oil prices of Middle Eastern geopolitical risk. But we're talking about something quite different now, right? We're talking about the U.S. potentially getting involved in what we could call, the big one in geopolitical risk. There are probably two. One is China-Taiwan, and the other is attacking Iran's deep underground nuclear facilities, which would be very different from the kinds of skirmishes that you're referencing. Last year, the exchange of ballistic missile fire, and then the possibility of regime change. We're not talking about a controlled explosion potentially happening in Iran. And I think this is where markets are failing to understand the risk trajectory.
Tina, over the course of the last several hours and maybe a few days here, there's been a campaign within the Middle East between Israel and Iran to assert their force on each other. We learned over the course of the last maybe day or so, when Israel has reportedly now claimed it has aerial superiority going all the way from the western borders of Iran all the way to the capital city of Tehran. That seems like a pretty strong statement and escalation in this particular move. What exactly can we expect between Iran and Israel, given the fact that there is now leverage being put on with regard to military superiority?
And so that air dominance is really something significant. And it's something that Russia, for example, hasn't been able to accomplish in 3.5 years of its war with Ukraine. So the Israeli dominance, the success of Operation Rising Lion to date, the targeted assassinations of not only key leaders but government ministries, this is a really advanced operation, a long time in the planning. But for it to be successful on Israeli terms, it would have to undermine that nuclear capacity, and that can't be accomplished without U.S. Military assistance. And so what Trump decides to do is the key variable in this trajectory.